Shatrunjay sir?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, we have contacted her, but she's not picking our phone. But we are trying, ma'am. So,
Can we start next session, sir? By the time she'll come.
I will
No,
recommend you
Shatrunjay,
just.
I'm already. Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
sir. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Shatrunjay, this is Amrita. Like I've already logged in.
Okay, so ma'am, what's the problem, ma'am?
No, I don't. No, it was showing me for some time that the host has disconnected this session. Now
Okay,
it's
okay,
okay. I thought, yeah,
okay, ma'am. Then please, ma'am, please go on, ma'am.
yeah. So
Please,
shall I start
please
the
go
session?
on. Yes, please go on. Session is live.
Okay, okay. Thank you. And Shatrunjay, it is showing that host has like disabled the screen sharing option. So can you just take it from your end?
Yes, ma'am. Just wait.
Yeah.
Ma'am, please put your name as Amrita.
And please try now.
Yeah. Yes.
तुम बनाएंगे? Now you can share. Okay.
You can see, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so a very good afternoon to all of you. Sorry for the inconvenience from my side or delay caused from my side. So in another 30 minutes, we'll be actually covering a brief on what is actually causality assessment. That means how we are actually doing or assessing the relationship between a medical device and an adverse event that has occurred. So yeah, just a second. So this is this is the overview of the presentation today. So we'll first see a definition which we have already might have come across through this webinar. What is medical device and what is in vitro diagnostics device and what is actually you need to report, what is AE and SAEs, and then we'll move on to the causality assessment and the levels of causality and some techniques which you can employ for doing the causality assessment. So this is as per the new Indian medical device regulation, what is actually a medical device. So if you see, we'll say a medical device, it can be anything, any instrument, apparatus, appliance or implant material or any article which we use it for human beings. This is very important. You can, the purpose is limited to the human beings and you can either use it alone or in combination, no issues. But for this 6 purposes, that is what differentiate a medical device from the drugs or whatever it is. So we have 6 different purposes, starting from like it can be used from for diagnosis, prevention, monitoring, treatment or alleviation of any disease or disorder. So what particular picture I've shown here is a insulin pump which we actually use it for the treatment of diabetes. So that is one purpose, and another way it can also assist in injury or disability. Like you have a variety of orthopedic implants which we basically use it for an assistance, like your foot, Jaipur foot and all. It's for assisting a disability. Or we have the band-aids, simple band-aids for assisting the injuries or treating the injuries. So that is another one purpose. And then we have like a majority of devices which we use it for investigation, replacement or modification or support of anatomy or a physiological process, like the ultrasound, MRI machines and all, which we use basically to see what is the internal structures, the anatomy of the body, all those things. So that has also been classified as medical device now. Then we have the ventilator kind of devices, which we basically use for supporting or sustaining life. Then a new category has also been added to the medical device, like any disinfectant solutions, which we use to disinfect a second medical device. That is also a medical device. Then we have a variety of contraceptive agents, like which we use it for control of conception. That is also a medical device now. Then what it actually differentiates from the device, drugs and vaccines and food is like this particular definition. It should not achieve its principal intended action in or on the human body by any of this means. Like it should not have its primary action for as pharmacological action or any immunological action or any metabolic action. So that is why basically we are excluding the drugs, vaccines and food. but definitely we can have this kind of function as a secondary function. For example, as a drug eluting stent, where your stent is having the primarily structural part, or the primary function is done by the stent, and we have the drug, or the drug incorporated in the stent, which is doing a secondary function. So that way, that kind of devices are known as combination products. So these are also now comes under the medical device. Then we have a different second category, which is IVD, or known as in vitro diagnostic devices. That means any device which we use it for examination of specimens derived from the human body, which is not something which you kept on like inside the human body. We are basically deriving some specimens from the human body and we are examining it. That is the IVD. So it can be anything, any reagent solutions, calibrators, control materials, specimen receptacles. These are different types of IVD. Even softwares are also IVDs. These are the purposes. Like you can use it for either diagnosis, or it can have an aid to diagnosis. That diagnosis means that is the only confirmatory test that we are doing, or otherwise you can have it like a secondary, like after like an aid to diagnosis. After this, we'll be again going for a confirmatory test. Then otherwise we can have a screening purpose, or like monitoring purpose, or prognosis. That is how your disease is progressing. So that is also an IVD. So with these two definitions, if you see, like many devices are actually now comes under the medical devices. A variety of like a multitude of devices are now under medical device. So I mean, definitely we cannot assure that every medical device is 100% safe or something. So what definitely there will be side effects. So what we are actually need to report is not the you can report like as per the MVPI rule, you can report anything, but you can definitely have an assessment from your side, like any unexpected or inappropriate medical occurrence which you feel that it is not actually you are not supposed to have this kind of adverse events when we use that particular medical device. So such an adverse event which may or may not be related to the device, you don't know, but you have to report all this kind of issues. And when we call, like when that will become a serious adverse event is if it is resulting in any death or any life threatening situations, or in any like prolonged hospitalization, or prolongation of the existing hospitalization, or any permanent impairment or injury, or any congenital anomaly, that means any birth defect. So in any of this case, we will call it as a serious adverse event. So what we are actually doing in the causality assessment is we are assessing the relationship between the use of the medical device and the occurrence of an adverse event. So this is basically while doing this, we'll also have a understanding whether the particular treatment that we are employed, a particular treatment option that we employed is also a reason. So we are actually checking whether the relationship between the device or adverse event exists, or the treatment or adverse event exists. And it is also an essential part of the medical device adverse event report. If you come across the report, you can see a particular section is only for causality assessment, and it's an important task under the Material Vigilance Program of India, or in any other country as part of the regulatory reporting. Causality assessment is a major task. So our specific objectives include, we are basically identifying the relationship, as I said, between the device and adverse events. And while doing this, we are in turn doing a benefit risk assessment also, because sometimes you know that the device is the reason for the adverse event, but if you compare it with the benefit that the patient gets, then definitely you have to the benefits always outweighs the risk. That is what we do in the risk management or in any of the causality assessment practice also. So we need to consider that benefit risk assessment. And also it will help you to detect the signals which is previously it may be unrecognized. So you are getting some information on those kind of signals. And it, as I said, it's an essential part of evaluating the medical device adverse event reports in early warning systems and for other regulatory purposes. So accordingly, we do not have any standards for doing the causality assessment. What we are actually following is a European guideline, which you see, and also there is a standard for clinical investigation, that is ISO 14155. I'll show you at the end of my presentation. So based on that, we now have 5 levels of causality. Accordingly, we will classify each adverse event or the relationship as in this 5 levels, starting from not related, or like unlikely, possible, probable, and causal relationship. We'll see one by one. So if you want to say a particular adverse event is not related, or the particular medical device is not the reason for that adverse event, then you need to actually evaluate these criteria. So not necessary that all the criteria should be met at the same time, but depending upon your device or the particular treatment what you are considering, and the complexity of the device, you can have like one or two or more than two, or some of these criteria needs to be established to say that the particular event is not related to the medical device. So, what are those means? If the adverse event that is happening, it is not known as not a known side effect of the product category. That means that particular adverse event is not, like, we don't know, like we have evaluated the particular device and the similar devices existing in the market and procedures. Then we know that, we confidently know that it is not a non side effect of that particular product. Then we can definitely say it is not related. And the second one is no temporal relationship. That means it may not be, like, as and when the time progress, there is no relationship with that adverse event. So when you put the adverse medical device today, and within like a particular time, if you are evaluating, it doesn't have that time, a related response is also not there with the adverse event, then also we can say it is not related. And definitely the adverse event does not follow a non-response pattern to the medical device. So if you know that particular medical device, what we are considering, we know that this, once we implanted that particular device, or once we have given that to the patient, then it will behave in, or it will have this non-response pattern. It will behave like this. If you know that particular behavior, then you can say that this particular adverse event is like behaving differently, or that response pattern is completely different. Then definitely it is not related. And this is one important thing that you need to consider when we have to actually establish this not relationship, like not relate. When we want to say it is not related, then we have to actually evaluate this. That this is what we known as like we have to actually discontinue the use or application, or either you can reduce the level of its use. Then you have to see. Then after that you have to again reintroduce, or like activate more. Then you have to see whether that there is any impact on that particular event. I'll tell you an example, a simple band-aid. Band-aid, if you put a patient is putting a band-aid and he is having an irritation. So the moment, if you want to evaluate that it is because of the band-aid, then you just remove the band-aid and see for some time. And if that irritation still persists, then we can say it might be because of something else. Otherwise, you can again reintroduce it and see. So if there is any problem with the material of the band-aid, or any other problem with the band-aid, then definitely that problem will reoccur. If it is not reoccurring, we can definitely say it is not related. And the other way, you know that it is because of some other cause very confidently. You have all the evidences to say that, then definitely you can say it is not related. And this particular clause is actually for the IVDs, or the in vitro diagnostic devices. It does not depend on false result. So in IVDs, mostly the major reasons for recalls or adverse event, if you see, it is because of some false result that the particular IVD is showing. For example, it's an insulin pump, major like IVD what we use in the market. So definitely sometimes the reading or the sugar level is showing might be different. So accordingly, we will be taking the insulin, or the dose will be accordingly the result of that particular IVD. So it may sometimes lead to hyperglycemia or hypoglycemia, or any critical situation. So if you surely know that it does not depend on any false result that is shown by the IVD, then also you can say it is not related. And it is not due to any use errors. Sometimes the use errors are also a problem for the adverse event. So if that cause is also eliminated, then also you can say not related, and involves a body site or an organ that is not expected to be affected by the device or procedure. In this case also you can say it is not related. We'll see some cases in the coming slides. Then the second level of relationship is unlikely, where like you know that the relationship with the use of the device is not at all relevant, but definitely you need some more additional information to say it clearly, or you know some other causes that is causing this adverse event, and you have all the evidences, but to conclude and say you need like another investigation. In this case, you can put it as unlikely. And another is possible, where the relationship is weak, but you cannot rule out completely with the existing data. you know that other alternative causes are also possible, like the underlying concurrent illness or any clinical conditions or effect of another device or concomitant drug or treatment. Then also we can say it as like these reasons may be also possible, but you need to definitely have a like a thorough investigation to be done. In that case, we'll call it as possible. And another is if you don't know the related, you don't have enough data to establish this relationship also. In that case also you can just simply put it as possible, and there will be another level of screening for the same report. So if you don't have enough information also, you can categorize it as possible. And another is probable, where the relationship is relevant and you don't find any other reasons to reasonably explain this particular cause. Then in that case we'll say it as probable. And the last is a causal relationship actually exists. This is completely opposite to the first, that is a not related what we explained, just opposite to whatever the criteria we have seen there. It is a non-side effect and it follows a non-response pattern actually. And as a time dependent relationship is there, and when you discontinue and reintroduce, then again there is an impact on the adverse event. In all this case, we can certainly say that the medical device is the cause for the adverse event. So few examples to say, if you read here the case one, it is a batch of out of specification blood glucose test strips were released by the manufacturer, and a patient uses that test strips, but obviously the reading provided was incorrect values, and leading him to take incorrect insulin dosage and resulting in hypoglycemic shock and hospitalization. So this particular case, it clearly describes it as because the patient has used an out of specification blood glucose test strips, and because of that an incorrect insulin dosage has been administered. So a clear-cut example of a related adverse event. We can certainly say it is related with the device. Now the case 2, if you see, after stent implantation, within 3 days the patient diagnosed with brain tumor. So this is actually, while reading itself, we know that it is impossible actually. So within 3 days, a patient cannot diagnose with a brain tumor. He may diagnose with brain tumor, but it may not have a relation with the stent because it is only 3 days in your body. And tumor doesn't act like all of a sudden it won't start. It may be there before also. So here we can say it is unlikely. It is not at all having any relation, or we can even say it's not related very clearly. Another is a patient with an orthopedic implant experienced a heart attack, no other underlying disease. So here it is clearly saying that there is no other underlying disease, but still when he had implanted with an orthopedic implant, he has experienced a heart attack. So here we are eliminating the other underlying disease or if you have eliminated all those criteria, like there is no underlying disease, no concomitant medications or any other symptoms or any other probable causes for this, but then you have to eliminate this particular device. So there will be sometimes the chances that an orthopedic implant, the materials used in the implant may leach out to the bloodstream and it can cause an embolism and heart attack. So that particular probability actually exists. So we cannot rule out it completely. In that case, we can certainly say it is a probable a probable relationship actually exists, and you need further investigation on that. And this is again a patient died after dialysis treatment. The patient had an end-stage renal disease and died of renal failure. So here, here if you see, the patient is already an end-stage renal disease patient. So he died of renal failure. So even if the treatment doesn't continue, also he'll die because of this renal failure. And maybe the procedure has some errors also, but you cannot even eliminate this fact also. So we cannot say it as entirely related with the procedure or the treatment. It may be due to this underlying condition. So in this case, we can say possible. Likewise, we need to actually have a thorough investigation, and accordingly, you can put your relationship of adverse event with the device. And then what you need to consider while doing that causality assessment is definitely this is a major part. The biomedical engineer's input is very important because sometimes from a clinician's background or a pharma background, you may not be able to do what is actually a device and what is the internal components that may contribute to this event. So that biomedical engineers will definitely give you a more input on that. And definitely you can have a risk management details. You can definitely see the other predicate devices risk manager report or publicly available literatures will be there. So all those things will have some hint on like how this device will behave. And definitely expert clinician's opinion is very important. And you need to also check in the clinical investigation details that has been published as per the ISO 14155, and the technical manual, user manuals. Sometimes it will be listed in the user manuals or technical manuals, then other literatures, regulatory status inputs, and related baseline studies if conducted any. Then all those things you can definitely have a look into this for more inputs. So the key components of a causality assessment, if I say, means you need a clear event description, because everything depend upon the event what we receive when we do the causality assessment. So if the event described itself is wrong, then our entire process may be result into like a wrong practice. So you need a clear event description. It should not be like a one page or 2 page or like a laboratory report. At the meantime, it should be very concise, including all the details. That means it should be complete. It should have the event details particularly, and the patient details. What is the patient, or like what is the conditions with the patient? What is his history? What are the medications he was taking, or some kind of history of the patient? And then the chronological details of the event, starting from when the from the patient arrived at the hospital, when he was done the surgery, and when the event had occurred. So all this chronological details of the event is very important. And you have to also have the evidence, like what has actually happened in that particular hospital, or what is the evidence for that. And definitely the procedure performed on the patient, the details of the procedure. So all those things makes your reporting very complete. So this concise and complete report is the base for the causality assessment. So without this we cannot proceed. We can proceed, but definitely it may not be complete. So you need a clear event description, and definitely you can employ certain techniques for doing the root cause analysis. So whatever I've described here is like three basic approaches. It is very simple. We have like around 5 to 10 techniques for actually root cause analysis, but out of this, these three are the most simple ones, and you can employ it without any like additional manpower or any skill capabilities or skills. You can definitely employ these techniques. So the first one is the root cause analysis, the fault tree analysis, which is known as the fault tree analysis, which actually visually models the logical relationship between the event occurred and the device problems, human errors, external events, procedure led. This is the particular diagram. What we actually like how we actually represent the fault tree analysis. So here the starting point is the main problem that is occurred, that the incorrect insulin dosage has been administered. That is the problem. Then you are actually like examining the causes for that. So it may be due to because an incorrect sugar level measured, there is a wrong false reading has been obtained. That may be one problem. Another problem, the reading may be correct, but you have delivered the dose at a wrong time. There is a delay in the delivery of the treatment. That is another problem. And the third problem is everything like these two factors are okay, but there will be some problem with the delivery system itself. So this is how you have divided the main reasons to sub reasons. Then again, each sub reasons you are evaluating for further errors, and we'll come to a conclusion that what had actually went wrong. So this is one method. And this is another. It is not necessary that you have to draw all these diagrams and all, but you can definitely look into this factor. So this is a very like common technique used in quality management, like the Ishikawa diagram, the cause and effect diagram. So where we have like the head of the fish is the focus problem, assume like that. So we'll start from the focus problem, and then we'll divide it into like method related problem, measurement related problem, machine related problem, or any user error, any environmental error, materials. So likewise, you can customize all these smaller bonds with the main problems and sub problems, and then you can divide and discuss, brainstorm among yourself with all the like I previously said, with the input of biomedical engineer clinicians. Then you can definitely have this kind of an assessment to come to a conclusion. Now another is a 5 eye analysis. It is a very simple procedure, but it actually have a statistical value also when you actually go into depth. But here you don't have to go into the depth and do this. Definitely you can ask a 5 simple why questions, starting from your problem, why that problem occurred, or why, and then you'll come to a after certain brainstorming, you'll come to an answer that it may be because of this reason. then again you'll ask why that particular reason had happened. So likewise, a simple 5 why will definitely come to a conclusion. That is what the technique actually is. So these are the three major techniques that we use. So a good causality assessment practice, it need, as I said, a clear and succinct event statement, and definitely the description of the depth of the event is very important. And you also have a good understanding on the risk level or the severity of the case that you're assessing. And a brief chronology of significant events in the investigation is very important. And this is the last one is the major one. You cannot simply say to me, maybe with your like prejudice or with your assumptions, you cannot come to a conclusion. You need facts or evidences to support your conclusions. That is very important. That is what we do with the causality assessment. At the end, you should have evidences according to your investigation to clearly say that this is not related or this may be related to the device. So, that fact or evidence is very important. These are the references that we are looking into. The clinical investigation as per the European Medical Device Regulation 745 and the EN ISO 14155 to 2020, which is the clinical investigation of medical devices for human subjects, the GC, good clinical practice. So all these two references you can employ, and you can once you are familiarized with the practice, you can definitely perform well. Thank you. So I'm happy to answer any specific queries.
Yes, ma'am. It was a really very informative session. Our participants are having so many questions. One by one, we will interact with them. How to do, ma'am? Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes,
Please go
ma'am.
on.
How to do casualty assessment of near miss event?
In sense, like, could you explain like a bit more on that? What, like, with some examples, like.
Dear participants who has asked this question can unmute themselves and can directly interact with ma'am. I think it say like that. Suppose some event, some casualty assessment event, if they have missed in a near past, so how to, if they miss the report that event in near past, so how they can report that kind of assessment error?
No, actually, we are doing from like the event what we received that has been reported. You want to specifically how you want to report means that with, like MBPA people will be better to answer that. Once it is reported, then whatever I said, like we the assessment practice is similar for all the reported events. It's not like it's like it's not different for different kind of reports. So once you have reported it, then only we can able to do the causality assessment, right? So if you haven't reported, then we cannot perform it.
Okay. Can we say that
Or
casualty
if you're like I don't know what the actual person has intended. So it is like if you haven't resulted in any injury or illness, that is what you are intended, like or any causality has not been occurred.
Okay, ma'am.
The question is not clear actually. So if you are
Yes,
like if there is a particular event that is reported and there is a causality happened, then we have to follow this particular practice. Whatever we have described till now, then you need to actually assess the like what is the event went wrong and what are the reasons for that. You need to actually have a brainstorming with all the stakeholders. Then you have to come to a conclusion. That is the only way to do it. If it is not been reported, then how do we do that?
Can we say that the next question is like, can we say that the casualty assessment scale for ADR assessment of drug and medical devices are similar?
No. The ADR, I think I'm not an expert on that, but I think it is with the Naranjo scales and all. It's something, the terminologies are actually different. This is something related to the medical device. And there also the possible, when we establish the node relationship, some of these things may be familiar, like, or the similar with the drug, but the practice entire, as such, it is different, and they have different scales. If I'm right, because I've never done it related to drug, my expertise is in the medical device. So I think it is with the Naranjo scales and all, and it is little bit different.
Okay, ma'am. Our next participant want to ask like, which assessment scale is widely used in India for material vigilance?
So that's what I said. In India, we didn't have any different scales, or in globally also, if you know, there is there is no clear cut scales, or like when we practice for the, as we practice for the drugs and all, no, there is no separate scales or any rules or guidelines for the medical device. In India, especially, we don't have. What we are following is, we have adopted it from the European Union, and MBPA is also following the same guideline. So, separately, we don't, as such, India don't have any other like a guidelines or a scale or a widely used technique. There is nothing like that. What we are actually doing is what I've shown here is as per the European Medical Device Regulation 745. Globally also, if you see, many of the device manufacturers, they are establishing the same method.
Uh, Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for very interesting interaction with us. Uh, Now we would like to move to our next scientific session, and I would like to now invite Ms. Nikita Mishra and Mr. Pawan Kumar to deliver a talk about available reporting tool for vigilance practice. Ms. Nikita and Mr. Pawan are biomedical engineer by profession, and both are working as a research associate under the Material Vigilance Program of India. So now I would request both Nikita madam and Mr. Pawan Kumar sir to take over the next session.
Thank you, ma'am, for a valuable word. A very good afternoon to one and all present in this webinar. Hope you all are safe.
Ma'am, kindly allow us to share.
Yes, that I am doing, sir. That I am doing. Who host बनाओ? Ma'am, please speak something so we can identify you. Nikita madam.
So now I'm going to give a brief overview on medical device adverse event reporting form. Now kindly allow us so that we can share the screen.
Yes. We are identifying you to share the screen.
Our video is on, so I hope we are highlighted by the yellow border.
Yes, sir. Just wait for a minute.
Okay, sure, ma'am. We are waiting.
Change role to attend. No. Nikita madam, please wait for 1 minute. I think Amrita ma'am is still as a co-host and Bright is with her only. She is now attendee, so change that. Actually, we are not able to identify you, ma'am. Can you speak something again? Nikita madam? Am I audible, Nikita madam? Nikita madam? Nikita madam? Nikita madam? I have given you right, ma'am. Please try to share your screen. I think she left. Shatrunjay sir? Am I audible? Please, someone can.
Yes, yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Shatrunjay sir? Nikita madam? Sir, unmute yourself, please. You are muted, sir. Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Ma'am, I think there is some problem. So with my screen,
Okay.
Nikita will be sharing.
Okay, okay, sir. Okay, okay.
Okay. Just give me 2 minutes. Hello, ma'am.
Okay, madam, your screen.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, yes, your screen
Ma'am,
is shared.
am I audible?
Yes, madam, you are audible.
Okay. Sorry for the inconvenience that has
It's okay,
caused you.
madam.
A very good afternoon to one and all present in this webinar. Hope you all are safe. Now I am going to give a brief overview on medical device adverse event reporting form. So this is a medical device adverse event reporting form. It is an editable version and it is also available on the website of IPC. It is editable in version, so one can easily fill this reporting form. This medical device adverse event reporting form is divided into 9 categories. General information, reported details, device category, device description, event description, patient information, history and outcome, healthcare facility information, causality assessment, manufacturer, authorized representative, investigation and action taken. So one by one we will move to the categories. First one category is general information. In this category includes date of report, on which date adverse event, on which date report is reporting this adverse event. Type of report. If it is initial, then tick the initial option. If it is follow-up, then tick the follow-up option. If it is final, then tick the final option. And if it comes under trend, then tick trend option. And the next session is for medical device adverse event monitoring centers. In this, they can specify their center, location, month, year, and case number. Next category is reported details. Reported details includes type of report, whether reporter can be manufacturer, importer, distributor, healthcare professional, patient, others, and they can specify. For the medical device adverse event monitoring centers, reporter is healthcare professional. In case whether the reporter is not manufacturer, fill the following details. Has the reporter informed the incident to the manufacturer? If yes, then tick yes. If no, then tick no. Is the reporter also submitting the report on behalf of manufacturer? Then if yes, tick yes, then no. The reporter contact details, in which reporter can fill their name, address, telephone number, email. Device category contains therapy. In the device category section, there is 3 sections: medical device, in vitro diagnostic, medical equipment. In medical device section, there is therapeutic, diagnostic, both preventive, assistive, implantable device, non-implantable device, invasive, non-invasive, single-use device, reusable device, reuse of manufacturer mark, single-use device, sterile, non-sterile. You can select multiple options in this section. If it is in the in vitro diagnostic, then tick options accordingly. If it is kits, reagent, calibrator, control material, others, IVD, electronic reader, analyzer. In case in medical equipment, therapeutic and diagnostic, preventive, assistive, imaging, invasive, non-invasive. You can tick all the options accordingly. Device details section, it contains name of the device, brand name, like brand name, trade name, or manufacturer details, importer details, or distributor details. This section contains all the details related to the medical devices, which you can find on the medical device. Like, is the medical device notified in India? If yes, yes. If no, then no. Device risk classification as per medical device rule 2017. A, B, C, D. You can tick options accordingly. License number, catalog number, model number, lot number, batch number, serial number, software version, associated device. If any device associated with the adverse event, then you can specify that particular device in that section. Nomenclature code, if applicable, GMDN code, global medical device nomenclature, UDI number, unique device identification number, installation date, expiration date, last preventive maintenance date, last calibration date, year of manufacturing. These all the options you can tick accordingly to the event. In event description category, date of event, date of implant, explant date, location of the event. If event happened in hospital premises, manufacturer, distributor premise, home, others. Device operators, healthcare profession, patient, others. Device needs current location of the device. You can mention in this section. Return to company, remains implanted in patient within the healthcare facility, at patient home, destroyed, others, etc. If the event is serious, then you will tick the serious option. In serious option, there are 7 options. Like, if adverse event happened and patient died afterwards, then you will tick this death option, and you will specify date as well. Hospitalization, congenital anomaly, any other serious adverse event. You can tick all the options according to the event. This section
Nikita madam, please unmute yourself. You are muted.
am I audible?
Yes, now you are audible, but screen is not there.
Now ma'am, it is visible.
Yes, it is visible.
Okay. So this section captures all the information related to the patient history and outcome. Healthcare facility information captures details including the name, address, and contact details of the patient at the site of the event in the hospital. This section captures the information regarding the investigation process carried out by the clinical specialist, concerned personnel from the manufacturing organization, further drawing out the root cause analysis of the problem. This section captures information related to the investigation performed by the product owner and the analysis report of the event related to the medical device, corrective and preventive action taken as to prevent the patient from being affected by the device. Now I'm going to explain you the PPE form, Personal Protective Equipment Reporting Form. So first we will start with the case study. So description of the case study is device implanted on June 17, 2020. Endophthalmitis was confirmed on July 21, 2020. Pseudomonas aeruginosa confirmed on August 3, 2020. Device implanted on August 8, 2020. So this is the detailed description of the case study reported by Dr. Abul Karim. Devices involved in anterior chamber intraocular lens, phakic, therapeutic implantive invasive steroid. A 36-year male patient had to suffer rehospitalization due to eye infection following the implantation of ICS. These are all the details of the patient, like patient initial, patient hospital ID, date, medical history, previously administered products, including this all comes under patient information. These are all the details of the patient. Device details include manufacturer, manufacturing grade, brand name. This all comes under device details section, which I previously showed you. Case narrative. It was reported that on June 17, 2020, and phakic intraocular lens treated of myopia in 36-year-old male with good result. On July 21, 2020, the patient returned with the symptoms of eye pain and loss of vision. On diagnosis, with retinal scatter, photocoagulation of vitreous sample, endophthalmitis was confirmed. On July 22nd, 2020, vitreous biopsy, core biopsy, these all are the treatments that patient went through. On August 8, 2020, lens was explanted and additional intervention treatment was performed. Vitreous biopsy, varectomy, is all the diagnostic that patient went through. A recent follow-up confirmed the patient recovered. After the adverse event happened, after the patient went through so many treatment diagnostics, and after that patient recovered. Case narrative. The explanted device was returned to the distributor on August 11, 2020. Investigation after preliminary inspection on August 21, 2020, manufacturer review was obtained accordingly to the manufacturer report. The device was returned for analysis, batch reports were reviewed, and it was found that all the batches have met the specification at time of release. It concluded cost for the reported patient effect and the relationship of the product, if any, can't be determined. However, the treatment appears to related to the operational content of the process based on the information reviewed. There is no indication of equality issue with respect to the manufacturer or the manufacturer review. Design or labeling, therefore, no corrective action is required. The case was also discussed in monthly causality assessment meeting. held on July 29, 2020. The diagnostic report eye ultrasound images were reviewed. Based on the review performed, it was found that post-operation some lens material was retained in the eye, which caused the exogenous endophthalmitis. The causality committee recommended that the event was possibly related to the device. It was decided that the similar event will be kept under trend monitoring. So this medical device adverse event reporting form is available on the website of IPC. The reporter can fill MDE form directly to NCC, Material Business Program of India, via Gmail, mvpi.ipcindia@gmail.com, or their nearest medical device adverse event monitoring center and AMC center. A toll-free number is also available to report such adverse events related to the medical devices to NCC MPJ. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikita madam.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, we are having one question, madam. Is every section in the form is mandatory, and in case if there any lack of information?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, your voice is interrupting.
Okay, I am again repeating same question. Is every section in the form is mandatory? If in case something is left or something is lack of information,
Yes, ma'am.
then will that form be considered?
Yes, ma'am. Surely we'll consider, ma'am.
Okay. Thank
Actually,
you,
ma'am,
madam.
our program is
Yes.
in budding state, so we'll enhance the reporting culture. We'll accept all the reports.
Okay. So I would ask that, ma'am, if entire team like Shatrunjay sir or the
Yes,
are
ma'am.
there, then
Yes,
or if
yes.
audience would like to interact, please. So it is my request to all our panelists and participants, if you want to directly interact with our IPC members, Material Vigilance team, please unmute yourself and you can directly ask them regarding your queries or any question. Madam? Dear participants, you can unmute yourself and you can directly interact with the MPPI team. Good afternoon, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Not audible. I'm audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Session is over or still?
Sir, question answer session is over. Now I'm opening this session for the direct interaction of if our participants want to directly interact with the MVPI team.
Yeah, please.
So please participants, you can unmute yourself. We are having Dr. Vivekanandan Kalai Silvan sir, and you can directly interact with them. Please unmute yourself and you can directly talk with sir. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible to me, but I don't know whether the participants are.
Sir, we are having Dr. Mrudansi Rathod in our panelist team. He want to interact with you, sir.
Yeah, please, most welcome.
Yes, yes, sir.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Yeah. So, sir, my question is that for the PVPI program, right? So, how we had complete documentary, like in the previous webinar also we have discussed that thing, like complete documentary and the database we are maintaining for the pharmacovigilance, right? So, for the material vigilance, so far we are not having any specific guideline or specific data maintenance. Whether we don't know all the hospitals are maintaining or not. So, sir, what are the future plans that we are having to maintain the proper documentation for material vigilance?
See, the data management, maintenance of the data, like you mean to ask, like VGFlow, what are the software we have?
Right, right.
See, this already been addressed. We are, in collaboration with CDAC, we are developing a software, India-specific software for medical devices data management, analysis, and identifying any signal or any outcome-related issues. So already it's in the pipeline. Government has already approved to develop this software with necessary funding, all this being done, and it is under the pipeline. We are expecting, due to this COVID pandemic, there are some issues, but soon it will be ready. Yeah, the India specific software will be ready.
Right.
That will be managed by the MBPA program.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir, for interacting with us. Now I would ask Dr. Mrudansi Rathod to propose a vote of thanks, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Dr. Mrudansi Rathod. It is my immense pleasure to propose a vote of thanks for this webinar. The Parul Institute of Pharmacy, Parul University, has organized this webinar to sensitize all the healthcare stakeholders for the better understanding of medical device standards and for promoting the patient safety, strengthening of the material vigilance system, and to educate the stakeholders about the necessity and importance of medical device adverse event reporting. We are very much thankful to Parul University for providing a platform where we can arrange such a program in a better way. And our heartfelt thanks to the IPC, especially to Dr. Jaiprakash, Dr. Kalai Selvan, Dr. Shatrunjay sir, for providing technical support for organizing this event. And we sincerely thank our speakers, Amruta ma'am, Vikas sir, Nikita ma'am, and Pavan sir, for kindly accepting our invitation and delivering very interesting and also I would add the informative talk. It has been our pleasure to host the participants who connected with us virtually, and I'm really thankful to all of you. I'm sure that the participants must have been benefited attending this webinar. That is all. Have a safe day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, all participants.
Thank you.